One of the Post Office's most senior managers, Angela van den Bogaerde, faces big questions today at the inquiry into the Horizon IT scandal that, of course, saw the lives of hundreds and hundreds of sub-postmasters totally devastated by allegations of theft and false accounting.
Well, van den Bogaerde was involved in handling complaints about the faulty software and gave evidence during the High Court case, which featured in ITV's drama On the Scandal, played by Catherine Kelly. Let's take a look.
So in 2015, it would be wrong to say, wouldn't it, that Post Office couldn't remotely access Horizon data.
Post Office can't.
Could it do it through Fujitsu?
Through Fujitsu. Yes, it can.
Well, we're now joined by 3 children of sub-postmasters whose childhoods were utterly shattered by the Horizon scandal. We've got Tony Downey. She was struck mute for 2 years. She couldn't speak after her father went bankrupt as a result of being falsely accused. We've got Rebekah here. Her mother's health was wrecked by the accusations. And Fraser, Holmes' father, actually died 6 years before he was exonerated and his reputation was restored. The thing is, we've heard from people like your parents, obviously, we all have, over the last few months since that drama went out. We haven't really heard from the children. We sort of know, we understand that your childhoods must have been hugely affected by what happened, but we've not really heard from you, and you're going to be there today. Let me ask you a tricky one first. We know that when these allegations were made against people like your mothers and fathers, very close relatives, close friends, the local community, kind of thought maybe they were true. They sort of lost faith in them, even though the allegations were totally false. As children, did you have any doubts at all about your parents' innocence? Did you ever go to bed thinking, I wonder if Mum did it, I wonder if Dad did it?
I think we've all got very different experiences in this. For me, personally, my family's only found out a year. We fled the country and my dad still didn't know up until about a year ago. He thought it was him. And I didn't know about this until 6 months ago when they told me.
Good grief.
Remember when we went to France? That wasn't planned. We fled because I couldn't afford the last payment. So it's very different for me.
Yes.
But, so I didn't know. I hated my mum and dad for 15 years for dragging me out the country. So I've got 15 years of my life to reassess now. That
was the impact it had on you?
Yeah.
What about you?
So, unfortunately, my mother's cousin was accused of stealing from us. So, when she was prosecuted, we got told to cut ties. If we contacted, it jeopardised the case and would lead to further prosecutions. So half of that family we just cut ties with.
So that split your family?
Absolutely. And my mother always said she didn't believe it, she didn't think she could do it, but all we were getting told by authorities was this is what has happened. So years and years later, we've now found out that obviously that wasn't true. And we're just trying to rebuild relationships now.
Fraser, how about for you?
Yeah, very different. Like Kate was saying before, everyone's stories are so different. My father was an ex-policeman, so obviously that was perfect news for everyone. Ex-policeman convicted of theft of X amount of money.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 34, so I'm actually one of the eldest children in the group.
Yeah.
So it was very, like I say, very different for me. The thing I found the hardest was I was dealing with ex-school friends and their parents on a weekly basis in my job. So I had to face them with that being out there. But in all honesty, I think everyone that knew my father and close family knew that it wasn't true. And
did that include you, or did you ever have any doubts about him, ever?
It obviously crossed my mind, but I think generally, no, because I just knew he wasn't that type of person and that he wouldn't think twice about doing anything like that. And he'd said from day one with the training of the Horizon that the training was inadequate and nobody knew what they were doing.
So you've joined forces. Katie, you formed this campaign group called Lost Chances for Children of Subpostmasters. So what is it that you want to achieve? You know, what's the aim of setting this up to be able to join together?
To keep it simple, we want to speak to Fujitsu, Paul Patterson specifically, and talk to him. No legal battles, sit down with us, hear our stories, and we've suggested a family fund of some sorts. It should be them that put some money towards things like education that people have lost. I've not personally lost out on things, but there's people that have had to leave school to be carers. There's people that have supported family financially. We need specific counselling. Fujitsu have spent 27 million on reputation management. I have a good idea how they could have used that money to sort that.
And what reaction have you had from them?
So, I mean, he has responded. I've had a couple of emails with Paul Patterson now, and 2 days ago he did respond saying, yeah, the meetings with the inquiry, we'd like to have your inclusion, which is great, but it's not the meeting we want.
I said in the introduction to you that you didn't speak for 2 years.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so I was given 2 days' notice and I got dragged to France and I couldn't speak to Mum and Dad at home because Dad's mental health was deteriorating. Mum didn't have a husband, so their relationship was really bad. I would either get shouted at or cried at, so I started to lock myself in a room and just didn't speak at home. And as soon as I couldn't speak French. As soon as I went to school, I just got bullied and beaten up, so I just didn't talk to anyone for 2 years and just kept locking myself
This
in.
was like a bomb going off in your childhood. How old were you?
I was 11, and then the heartbreaking thing is I blame Mum and Dad for this. So I was sat there, as you do, in your own head. This is all Mum and Dad's fault. They've ruined my life.
Why did they tell you that they'd had to go to France?
They kept it very... I didn't know.
Vague.
I didn't know. They said that they'd planned it. I mean, fortunately, they had the money from being forced to sell their house. We could buy a little place in France. And I just thought it was planned, but it wasn't.
No.
And Rebekah, for you, I know that, you know, it devastated your childhood as well, didn't it? Because your mum went through this, you then had to go out to get work. You know, there were huge financial pressures on the family, weren't there?
Absolutely. So my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my uncle, my mum, they were all involved with the post office, and looking back, I just can't believe that something of this multitude actually happened to us all, because it was something that had been in our family for generations. I'm one of 6, and when this all really started coming to light, yeah, I was 13, I was working...
13, jeez.
13, doing 60-hour weeks in the local fish and chip shop, and I wouldn't change my childhood for the world, but obviously it's something that I will never, ever get back.
Was it kind of the last thing you thought about when you went to bed at night and the first thing you thought about when you woke up in the morning?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm obviously very career-driven now. I don't know whether that's because I was working so much when I was younger, just to set up a life for myself.
Yes.
But, you know, as Katie mentioned, I think just listening to everybody else's stories and being able to get that chance to speak with Fujitsu, to have a meeting with us and just be treated better than our parents were by the post office.
When you think of all the other children, you know, bullied at school, teased, shouted at, I mean, we know these stories, desks graffitied, your mum's a thief, your dad's a thief. I mean, total nightmare for little children growing up. I absolutely think you deserve compensation. I mean, without question. And I hope you get it soon. So, who's going to the hearing today? Are you all going?
No, I'm not going to the
You're not going, but
So
you...
all eyes will be on what Angela van der Bogaerde has to say today, won't it?
I'll be looking at her in the eyes.
Yes, I bet you will.
And you hoping that prosecutions will follow?
It needs to happen. I mean, the sub-postmasters are still not being paid and they're not being sorted.
Yeah.
But I need to look at her in the face and make her and see what she's got to say.
And if there are prosecutions, and if some of these executives do go to jail, do you think they'll be getting a taste of their own medicine?
If it was us, we'd be in jail now if the roles had been reversed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Listen, thank you so much for coming in, for sharing your stories. I'm so sorry for what you all had to go through. But hopefully, you know, there will be some resolution on the way to all of it for you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.